like it that way. I like that. You know what? It's funny. I wasn't very punctual when I was a kid. Actually, I was probably the worst at it as a kid. There's something about um, be on time. Be on time.
No, it's awesome.
All right. We are live on Instagram. And hey, Dr. Midge,
Hey, Jim.
how are you?
Good. Thanks for having me here.
You know what? Thank you. Thank you. Guys, welcome to our live stream. This is my name is Jim Grasser, and I'm a professional competitive barbecue cook. And those people who watch our live streams, typically, we're probably expecting Dr. Tiffany. Dr. Tiffany had something come up at the last minute. And I said, well, the show must go on. And she said, I'm sure we got another doctor. And I said, you know what? Give me a minute. And I reached out to Dr. Midge. And within 5 minutes, she was like, yeah, I would love to do this. And so Dr. Tiffany is out, but Dr. Midge is in. And I can't wait for you guys to get to know Dr. Midge. It's a really cool story. I met Dr. Midge, of all places, at an airport in Tokyo, Japan.
Yeah.
Her and her husband, who's also a doctor, right? Steven's also a doctor. And so let me tell you guys a little bit about me real quick. My name is Jim Grasser, and I am a competitive barbecue cook. I was also a career lumberman. That means I bought and sold a lot of wood throughout the years. Kind of a boring job. It was actually kind of action-packed, but put a lot of gray hair on my head.
Yeah.
And had horrible eating habits, ate at my desk. I think I lived the American way. I would assume it's actually kind of the Canadian way, right? We just kind of, we eat on the go, and was not very cognizant of what a good diet was supposed to look like. I thought, well, I have to eat salad for the rest of my life, and that sounds horrible. And so I'm not going to have that. I'll have the red meat, and I'll deal with it later. I'm going to find out the red meat was fine. It was the bun.
Yeah,
right?
exactly. Yeah.
And I ended up with really, really bad diabetes. Really. Dr. Midge, I don't know if you've heard these numbers or not.
I don't think you have.
I started losing weight kind of out of nowhere.
Yeah.
And my wife is saying, what are you doing? Are you on a diet? And I was like, no, I'm just not as hungry. I don't know. I'm not as hungry.
Yeah.
She says, well, how much have you lost? I said, I think about 25 pounds.
Yeah.
It was a substantial amount of weight.
Yeah.
And I couldn't drink enough water.
Yeah.
I could not drink enough water. And then at night, I would wake up, it felt like 6 times a night to go pee. And she gets to WebMD, right? And I've either got a leg that's about ready to fall off, or I've got some form of cancer, or I've got diabetes. And I was like, that is ridiculous. I don't have any of the above. I'm perfectly healthy. I'm just losing some weight. And her mother is type 2 diabetic. Her mother brings her glucose meter over for dinner one night.
Yeah.
Pokes me. This would have been a fasting glucose number. I had not eaten for like 6 hours.
Yeah. Yeah.
It was like 475.
Holy cow. Oh my God.
Next thing you know, I'm in the doctor's office. I have a 12.2% A1C. I have a 565 cholesterol. I have a 459 LDL.
Yeah.
A 22 HDL, and that little ratio, that LDL or the triglycerides to HDL, my triglycerides were 561, so that ratio was 25 and a half. Obnoxious. And I went on to all of the medications, the statin medications, the metformin, all of the stuff. And then I came across this system. And now I've been completely unmedicated for almost 2 years. And last week, my A1C was 4.8.
Holy cow. Okay, Jim, how long were you diabetic before you found this? I missed that part.
So the day that I was actually diagnosed it's funny the dates that stick in your head. June 21st, 2021.
Okay.
And I started the program January 4th, 2023.
Okay.
And on February 16th, so it was 43 days, I got a call from my doctor saying I could quit taking my medications.
That is so amazing. Amazing.
It was rapid fire once I got onto the system. So I want to say welcome to everybody that's coming into here. And Dr. Midge, I love Dr. Midge, guys, and I think everybody who's listening is going to love Dr. Midge. Doctor, would you tell everybody who you are? Introduce yourself. I mean, I've said you're Dr. Midge, and then I I have a great deal of respect and I love you. So who are you? Introduce yourself to everybody.
Thanks, Jim. Thanks, everyone. Okay, so I'm a pediatric endocrinologist. So basically, an endocrinologist is a diabetes doctor. They do other hormonal diseases as well, but diabetes is the most popular, I guess, the most frequent. And Jim, do you want me to tell my story of how I got into endocrinology? And
Yeah, I think so. Absolutely.
Okay, so essentially, I was doing my PEDS residency in Toronto. I'm Canadian. And my father, a very similar story to Jim, where he got really, really sick and he was ignoring his symptoms. And we found out he had type 2 diabetes. But the problem was, well, that was a problem. But I was doing my PEDS residency on the other side of the country, and he was diagnosed out west. And I felt really helpless across the country, and I wanted to help him. So I decided to go into the subspecialty of endocrinology, and that is what I did. And I loved the subspecialty, but I didn't love what happened to my father. So in the 28 years that I saw him with his diabetes, I saw that he was getting not well. He was, despite all the medications, despite all the science, all the care, because we're Canadian, we have universal health care. So it wasn't a lack of health care. Despite all that, I saw his disease progress, and he was on multiple different diabetes medications. And he's almost blind. He has kidney failure, mild kidney failure. He has many sores on his legs all the time. He has issues with multiple strokes. He has heart issues, and he has a pacemaker. And the biggest thing for me and for anybody who has family members with it was that he ended up getting dementia as well, which we now know is type 3 diabetes. And so I saw this happening. I felt very, once again, helpless as an endocrinologist, going, why can't I even help him, right? Anyways, so long story short, in my late 40s, as I was going into perimenopause, I started getting pre-diabetes. So I realized right there and then that medicine was not going to help me. My practice, my education wasn't going to help me. And I really started to look into what was. And I found this doctor online who was talking about intermittent fasting and reducing your carbs to help you. And that's what I started to do. And the intermittent fasting was pretty good for me. Like I didn't struggle once you get used to it. But the carb restriction, I don't know about you, Jim, if you ever tried to do it on your own, but it's like, it's like, lack of another word, the B word, right? Like for me, I really struggled because I love my sweets. I love my rice. I'm Asian. So
was
yeah.
that Dr. Jason Fung?
It was, yeah.
A fellow doctor from Toronto. What are you guys drinking up there? Because Dr. Bickman's from Canada as well. What are you guys doing up there?
Is he Canadian? I think he might be. Yeah, you're right.
What is going on with them Canadian doctors? Anyway, I'm sorry.
Yeah. No, so yeah, Jason Fung. And in fact, it's funny because he was at the time when he started talking about this many, many years ago, 8-10 years ago, people said he was crazy, right? Like the medical community told everyone that he was crazy and that it wouldn't work. But he essentially took his patients into his clinic, put them on a extended fast and got them to do low carb. And he was able to reverse type 2 diabetes in these patients, right? And I was like, you know what? That really makes sense. Like, I'm going to try that, And so once again, the fasting was okay, but the carb restriction, I really struggled with. I call it the keto wagon, where I kept falling off the keto wagon. So 2 years ago, I found the system online. And my hemoglobin A1C was 6%, so not as bad as yours, right? I was still pre-diabetic, but I was still trying to fast and carb restrict, and I was on metformin at this time in order to keep it at that level. And I found these products, and I started using it, and really, it was literally the easiest thing. Like, I'm not kidding, the easiest thing I've done, because I've done so much to try to reverse my disease.
Dr. Midge, I mean, there are so many layers to unwrap here. I'll just start peeling back the layers of the onion, right? You're a freaking endocrinologist.
Yeah.
I'm sorry, but the irony of that, right? The endocrinologist who couldn't give herself enough medications to make this thing go away, and she comes across some random dude on TikTok.
Yeah.
And orders the system, and all of the dots, I think that's where it is, right? All of the dots start to connect.
Yeah.
You're seeing all the dots, and it's just a matter of, oh, okay, now I see how this one goes. Now I'm connected. I've been using the analogy lately of color by numbers, right? When you first start coming across it, you start coloring by numbers, and it looks like nothing.
Yeah.
And then at some point, it all comes into focus, and it's like, oh,
yeah.
I don't have to eat salad for the rest of my life.
No.
I can have something outside of salad, and I can have that beautiful ribeye steak, right? Like,
yeah, absolutely.
You can start to see all that. Guys, I want to address everybody that is, first off, I don't know if you're seeing all of the love that you're getting here, Dr. Mitch. You're getting a lot of love in the comment section here. Okay.
That's so nice.
Guys, here's the deal, folks. This is our weekly live stream, and I'm very blessed to have Dr. Midge joining me this week. This is how this works. I started talking about this system on TikTok, and over the last year and a half, almost 2 years now, I would say that I've seen no fewer than 100 people reverse their type 2 diabetes. I have what is seemingly this endless bag of people, this sack of like goodies of testimonials of people who have reversed their type 2 diabetes. It's absolutely amazing. And tonight I've got another one of those coming up. I'm excited for you. She's not fully reversed yet, but the story is absolutely amazing. I can't wait for you guys to hear it. And so what we're going to do, we're going to bring her in here. I'm going to introduce her, let her tell her story. I think you guys are all going to love her. And when she's done, I'm going to bring back Dr. Midge. I'm going to put you on the spot, Dot.
Okay.
If you'll tell us, explain to us the how. What exactly happened here? How did she go from being so bad off to this wonderful position where she's at now? And how did this work? Tell us what the problem is. And then we'll transition back to me. I'll kind of go through how we use the system. And yeah, that's where we're going to go. So without further ado, I want to, and real quick, here you go. If you have been tagged into this live stream, as in somebody, you got a notification saying so-and-so invited you to this live stream, that means that they think that you could benefit from this. It's an hour long. It's not a very long live stream, and hopefully it's fun. Listen, go ahead and listen. If at the end of this you decide you want to order the products, hey, I think I'm going to give this a shot. I think I'm going to trust Dr. Mitch. I think I'm going to trust that testimonial Danielle and some random weird barbecue dude, Jim. If you decide you want to order it, all you do is go back to the person who invited you here. They have a referral link that gets you a lifetime discount to the product, okay? You buy the product direct from the manufacturer. You do it by getting with them. Now, in the event that you stumbled across this live stream, you don't know anybody, get with me, get with Dr. Midge, and we'll send you out to the best person, the best fit, okay? So without further ado, I want, you know what? I keep saying that. One other thing. I'm going to encourage everybody who is listening right now, tag 5 people. Invite 5 people into this live stream, okay? Invite 5 people, and the way that you do that on Facebook is you just hit the little @ symbol. You just do that little @ symbol and then start typing their name, Midgen Brown. And it will pop up with their name. And when it does, hit enter. And then you've tagged them in and they will join. So everybody that's listening right now, tag 5 people that you think could benefit from the system, okay? And the system is going to help with diabetes, cholesterol, and we're going to let Dr. Midge explain how that all works. But if you know somebody who's got a weight problem or high blood pressure or type 2 diabetes or pre-diabetes, if you know somebody who's got a cholesterol issue, heart disease, fatty liver disease, I mean, guys, the list is tall. Tag them. Tag 5 people. And then, yeah, if you've been tagged into here, just listen. Just listen. Put your best ears on. Guys, I'm excited to bring in Danielle. This is Danielle. Let me see. So I use Restream. And they just recently changed everything on me. Where is this at? Oh, there we are. Here we go. There she is. Hi, Danielle.
Hey, how's it going?
I use Restream to do this, and Restream went to a new version in the last week. And so everything, all the buttons aren't in the same place. So, and I've been using it for about 2 years. Hi, Danielle.
How are you?
I am wonderful. How are you?
Good.
Okay,
Hey,
Danielle, I'm going to ask you the question that I ask everybody who comes into the live stream is, how did we meet? Where was your health at when we met? And where are you at now? What's the time frame that's elapsed? Tell us your story.
okay, well, first of all, I met Jim on TikTok. So I just took a chance and kept watching and watching. And I was like, oh, is this just another scam? Is this just something that, you know, somebody's pushing and it's not going to work? And then he hit me with the guarantee and all that. And I thought, you know what have I got to lose except for my bad health? I mean, and it was bad. It was really bad. So I was diagnosed about 6 years ago with as diabetic, and my A1C was 14, and I had gone to my mom's house because I started having the symptoms, the drinking tons of water, and like my eyesight had started to go. And so I went to my mom's because she's diabetic, and I tested, and I was 524, and I hadn't had anything to eat that day either. And she's laughed, and she says, oh, this has got to be wrong. You must have just eaten something sweet. You got sugar on your fingers, whatever. So she changed her needle. She changed everything, 524 again. And she just looked at me and she goes, oh, that's not good. So I made an appointment with the doctor. I ended up in the emergency room, and it was just this fast track of really not feeling well. And they put me on metformin, and you know how you get when you go on metformin, it makes your stomach horrible and all those things. And I went super crazy then. I went to where I wasn't even eating vegetables with carbs in them. It was just like, no matter what I did, I wasn't taking in any carbs. And that made me really sick. I did get my A1C back down to 7, which my doctor was like, whoa, that's never happened before. But at what a cost. I mean, it was terrible. And then I gave up, and my A1C went back up to 10 because it was so unsustainable to be able to live without even eating. I mean, I wasn't even eating carrots because they had carbs in them. So then I went back up to a 10, and they put me on Jardiance, and that was a mess for my body. And so then they put me on insulin, and I thought, whoa, free ticket. I'm on insulin now. So like, it doesn't matter what I eat. And then my insulin kept climbing and climbing and climbing to where I was on 52 units of insulin. And it just made me sicker and sicker and sicker. And the more I was on, the more I was eating sugar to maintain the levels of the insulin. And I mean, like, I was living on Smarties. And the ladies I work with started just teasing me because I was living on Smarties and gummy bears. But I just couldn't continue the lifestyle that I was on. I just kept feeling sick. I had no energy whatsoever. I'd get up, I'd throw up, I'd go to work, I'd not have any energy. I'd come home and I'd lay down, and sometimes I'd sleep, wake up, have maybe a tiny bit to eat, shower, and go to bed, and then do it all again. And anyway, as I said, I met Jim on TikTok last September, and I took until March before I committed. And then I kept thinking, oh, I can't do this. I can't do this. I can't drink stuff. I don't like to drink. So I asked him for a sample, and it was like, you know what? I can do this. I can do this. And it has been the easiest protocol that I have ever been on. I am no longer on any insulin. And my last A1C was 6.9, but it was just after a steroid injection. And so the one before that was 6.4. And my diabetic doctor is absolutely thrilled. Because she told me I couldn't do it. She says, there's no way that you can figure something out to replace all the insulin that you're putting in your body. And I said, you know what? I've got to do something because I'm going to be dead in years. I mean, and I've got 7 cute little grandkids that I couldn't see leaving behind. So anyway, I've lost weight. I feel so much better. I have energy. I've had to buy all new clothes, so that's fun. But yeah,
I love this
it's been
story. I love this story so much because I don't know if anybody else can pick up on this, but Danielle is a kind of a shy person. And when I first met her, it was like I was pulling teeth to get her to talk to me. She's very quiet by nature. And I felt like, and maybe I don't want to over exaggerate anything or make anything bigger than it was, but it felt like the weight of the sickness was just weighing you down. As I talked to you, it felt like you were just tired of feeling like that. And when I talk to you now, I don't get that sense. Does that make sense?
No. Oh, yeah. Yeah, I was so desperate. I mean, I don't even know how I made it through 1 year of work because I was literally so sick. And I'm a lunch lady, so I've got to be on my toes.
I love this. Okay, so name my doctor's complete shock. Here's somebody who's kind of agreeing. Vicky's saying the same thing. Doctor's in complete shock. Guys, this happens. You've just listened. Excuse me. You've just listened to Dr. Midgen talk about it. We just call her Dr. Midge. You just heard Dr. Midge tell her story about how it kind of just worked. It was very easy. You just heard Danielle tell her story, why it was kind of just that easy, very sustainable. Danielle, it sounds like you were on a carnivore diet of sorts. Is that accurate? When you first got diagnosed, you said you weren't eating any vegetables. And it's very effective. It works. But like you kind of alluded to, it's not very sustainable. People get tired. I love ribeye steak. I don't think I could have it every day, twice a day. I just don't. It would be really challenging for me to do it. So I think what I took away from you is that this is very easy. It's very sustainable. And I got that same message from Dr. Midge. So what I'm going to do, if you don't mind, Danielle, I'm going to turn your camera off, but I'd like you to kind of stay backstage for us because I want to go through and have Dr. Midge. Danielle is my boss, and the difference in the past year is amazing. Look at that. Hi, Jen. The difference in the past year is amazing. Look at that. Jen Thatcher saying that about you. Okay. I'm going to go ahead and turn your camera off, but if you'll stick around, what I want to do is, guys, at the end of this live stream, I'm going to bring her back in. If you guys have any questions, what are you eating, Danielle? How long did it take to come off your insulin? Any questions that you have, we're going to kind of do a Q&A at the end. But I'm going to go ahead and shut this off right now, and I'm going to start picking. I'm going to try and shut this off now. Yeah. Restream messing with me. Dr. Midge, who, what, why, how did this work? Why, what, and, talk to us. Educate us, Dr. Midge.
Okay. Jim, can you put my share screen on?
There it is.
So, guys, this is my before and after. The other thing I didn't tell you guys was that I was in my menopausal stage. Like I was And I was able to lose 20 pounds on this system, which in it of itself is a miracle for any of you guys going through perimenopause or menopause. But this is my after. So this was also something I wasn't expecting. That was very, very nice, a nice surprise. The other things, and I don't know if Danielle had the same feeling, sounds like it was she had better energy. That's what I found. Better energy, just better mood at the time. And you guys will learn more, but one of the symptoms I was having of my insulin resistance was anxiety, a lot of anxiety. And that also went away. I'm still an anxious person, but nowhere near as much. So that was awesome. So this is my before and after. Oh, I'm just trying to, let's see. It's not letting me click for some reason. Can you do it, Jim?
I don't think I can.
Oh, here. It's weird.
There you go. Oh,
Okay. No? Okay. I'm going to share the screen again
there we go.
and see if I can. Okay. Okay. Yay. Can you see that?
I can.
Okay. So I want you guys to get only 5 things out of this talk. If you get more than 5, that's great. But I want you to take this 5 things. Okay. So the first thing is that a lot of us are going to be on this call and think, oh, I don't have diabetes or even pre-diabetes, so this isn't from me. But the fact is that this is probably for everybody on here, because what we're going to talk about is insulin resistance. And insulin resistance is the root cause of prediabetes and diabetes. And it's also the reason why most of us have all of these different symptoms that we're going to go into. So this is for everybody. And the thing that's going on with insulin resistance is that this insulin resistance is getting worse and worse. And it can take that 10 to 15 years before your blood sugar levels even start to go up. And that's why a lot of people miss it, because a lot of times when you go to your doctor will say, hey, your blood sugars are fine, you're fine. But the reality is you're not, and you're going to know why. The second thing I want you guys to get out of this is that these medications are not going to address that root cause, which is insulin resistance, and really help you. It may address the symptoms. And I just want to give a really poignant example with Danielle, was that she was on all of these medications, including metformin and then insulin. And you guys are going to learn that actually insulin is what's caused the problem with her diabetes. And yet, because we in the medical profession are so focused on getting the symptoms down, that high blood sugar, that we forget that by giving somebody a type 2, so not a type 1, that's a different story, but giving somebody a type 2 insulin is actually making their disease worse. It's actually going to make them sicker in the long run. And that's one of the things that I really have an issue with in traditional practice. So we're going to talk about that in a bit more detail. The other thing is that a lot of these chronic metabolic diseases, including diabetes, including heart disease, so many other ones we'll talk about, are reversible. And they're reversible by dealing with your insulin, which at the end, Jim's going to give you some really good insulin lowering strategies. But I want everyone to realize that just because they get heart disease or diabetes, that it's not a life sentence, that they can do things about it, but the answer is not medications. And this is coming from a doctor. Okay, the other thing I want you guys to realize is that a lot of the complications, though, of these chronic metabolic diseases. So Danielle was touching about her eyes and how she wasn't able to see as properly. And had she let that progress, that could have led to permanent blindness, right? Or if somebody has really bad diabetes and they let that progress and they end up with kidney failure, that's not reversible. Or something like my father, where he ended up getting dementia. And by the time you get symptoms of dementia, it's very hard to reverse it. So I guess the main point of this is that, yeah, it's at some point you can reverse a lot of things, but don't wait too long, because there are things you can't reverse. And then the fifth thing I want you guys to get out of this is to be a little bit patient with your own doctors, and realized that a lot of the stuff that we're talking about today was not stuff that we learned in medical school. In fact, in medical school, they didn't teach us anything about nutrition, right? And I asked, like, I'm an old grad, so I graduated from medical school almost 30 years ago, and I thought, well, maybe it was just an old thing, right? So I asked the newer grads, how much nutrition did you get in medical school? And they said, like, really not at all. So it's not anything new. And I always wondered, because we all know that what we put into our bodies determines our health, but why did they leave that big part out of our medical school training? And I think, a lot of it was by design, because what they want to teach us is for us to diagnose diseases, treat it with medications, and that is it, right? And the other thing is that even after we've been trained, when we are in practice, the guidelines that we get about treating diseases are very heavily influenced by big pharma. So that is why I want you guys to be patient with your actual doctors and other healthcare professionals, because they are only doing what they've been told to do. Okay, so what we're talking about with all of these metabolic diseases and insulin resistance is a huge problem right now. And in fact, 9 of the 10 diseases that we all die from are lifestyle-related diseases. And like I said, they're all preventable. And heart disease remains one of the biggest killers in the world, and even in kids this problem is happening. So they did a study in 2022 where they looked at a bunch of parameters for health, and they showed that 93% of us are metabolically unhealthy. That means that most of you guys are on this call, even if you don't have diabetes, you have something wrong with your metabolic health. And so why is that? Like, why did we all of a sudden in the past 30, 40, 50 years get sicker and sicker? And I think that it's a bunch of things, but 2 main things is that, one, they gave us this food pyramid in the 1990s, if you guys remember it, but essentially it told us to eat 6 to 11 servings of grains, right, like carbs every day. And then they started pushing all of these myths, these food myths. But now that you guys are onto this with insulin and the fact that we need to keep our insulin levels down, and I'll go into that in a bit more detail, but we need to keep it down as much as possible. This is going to make sense why how they were telling us how to eat didn't make sense, okay? So this little chart in the side here is how our body responds whenever we eat carbohydrates, protein, and fat. And you can see that when we eat carbohydrates, our blood sugar spikes, and therefore our insulin spikes. And then if we eat protein, like a nice big fatty steak, our blood sugar doesn't spike very much, and therefore our insulin doesn't go up very much. And then when we eat fat, literally there is no response with our insulin, which is good, right? But they've told us to eat 6 to 11 servings of grains a day, which is carbohydrates, spiking our insulin. They also told us things like a calorie is just a calorie, so just eat whatever whatever you want, as long as it's in your caloric requirements for the day. Or weight loss is so easy, just eat less, exercise more. Then this one, breakfast is the most important meal of the day, which was probably made by Kellogg's, right, to sell us their breakfast cereals. I love this one, which was that we needed to eat every 2 to 3 hours to keep our metabolism up. We know scientifically that this is false. That in fact, if we go on extended fast, our metabolism actually goes up. And that just makes sense from a, evolutionary standpoint. If we got weaker and weaker as we didn't find food, we would die. But our bodies have been made so that we get stronger. Our metabolism goes up as we are looking for food. And this is before, we had too much food. And then this one, if you guys look at my chart, is something that makes me really mad. And that was this whole paradigm that saturated fat was bad for us, that it caused heart disease and it made us fat. But if the name of the game is trying to keep our insulin down, what this did was they took the very macronutrient that actually didn't increase insulin very much, and they replaced it with the very macronutrient that did, which was the carbohydrates. And then they sold it to us as low-fat, heart-healthy foods. So this is essentially what has been going on. And this is not a quote by me, it's by Dr. Ben Bigman. But he said all of these food myths basically caused the perfect recipe to create a perfect metabolic storm to ensure that insulin is elevated and every chronic disease will follow. So you guys are all sitting here wondering, well, do I have insulin resistance? Because that's kind of the topic of why we're all getting sick and the root cause of why people will have diabetes and heart disease, etc. And sometimes you just have to look at your own skin and know that you've got some symptoms of insulin resistance, like acne, skin tags, these dark patchy pigmented areas, or your belly. And the part of your belly that we're really worried about, the outside subcutaneous fat doesn't look nice, but it's the stuff inside your belly around your organs called visceral fat. And then symptoms of insulin resistance is so widespread. And if you remember my chart about how you can get symptoms for 10 to 15 years, even before you get that elevation in your blood glucose level, well, these are all the symptoms. And I think, Danielle and Jim touched on a lot of them, right? Just feeling the thirst, the urination, having, well, actually both of you guys, I think Jim, you had on the far end was losing a lot of weight. But in addition to the kind of sugar related issues, there are a whole bunch of issues that seem really unrelated to insulin and sugar, but I'm going to talk to you about how they're all related. And some of them we can talk about is blood pressure. High blood pressure is something that is affecting 50% of adults right now. Problems with your sex hormones, and the number one cause of infertility in women is polycystic ovary syndrome, and men have a huge problem with erectile dysfunction, but we don't know it because nobody wants to talk about it. And then everyone has issues with their GI, with IBS, reflux, or even like IBD problems. And then migraines, people are having so many issues with migraines. And then something that I really had issues with was brain fog and anxiety and depression. So those are just some of the symptoms. And the reason that these are so horrible is that these symptoms will then end up with all of these diseases. So we can see that insulin resistance can lead to type 2 diabetes, and that's kind of the quintessential, disease of insulin resistance. But insulin resistance is also at the core of all of these other chronic diseases, like dementia, like heart disease. In fact, insulin resistance, the biggest risk factor for heart disease is insulin resistance. It's not your high cholesterol. And then obesity, and we talked about PCOS again. Also something like fatty liver disease. If any of you guys are on this call, insulin resistance is what is causing your non-alcoholic fatty liver disease. And then cancer. And I'm going to kind of go through why this one aberration in a hormone is causing all of these different metabolic diseases. But let me take a sip of water first, okay?
I love the way that you described this, Dr. Midge.
Oh, thanks, Jim. I'm trying to talk fast because I realize we don't have a lot of time. So I apologize, but I want to just get all of this in.
I love the way that, and I hope everybody's listening. If you guys are listening, this is amazing. Dr. Midge is doing this on her free time. I'm not paying her. We're not paying her. Dr. Midge just being generous enough to educate us on what's happening. Thank you, Dr. Midge.
And Jim, you know what I want? I want a steak from you. I want you to barbecue me a steak, okay?
Call it done. It's in the books.
Okay, perfect. Okay, so the reason why when something is wrong with insulin, you can get all of these different symptoms, is because insulin not only works on every single cell of our body, but insulin has so many different roles. And the most famous role of insulin is that when your blood sugar goes up, mainly because of the foods we eat, right, the high carbohydrate foods, your pancreas is going to release that insulin in order to get that blood sugar down. But the other thing about insulin that most people don't know is it's got so many other functions, like hundreds of other functions. It's responsible for making your muscle cells grow, for protein synthesis. It's responsible for cellular growth. It's responsible for fat metabolism. So when insulin is high, it tells your body to store fat. And when insulin is low, it tells your body that it can use its own fat, right? And so for a lot of us, when we're eating in a world where we're eating a lot of carbs and we're eating it all the time, our insulin's elevated all the time. So your body is only in a fat storing mode. It's not in a fat burning mode, right? And that's why so many of us struggle with weight loss. And we really need to look at that insulin. Other things, kind of even more surprising things that insulin does is it's responsible for electrolyte balance. So how much you hold on to your water and salt. And so when people actually start to decrease their insulin, they start to pee out. They retain a lot less water and salt. And then the sex hormones, which is something that nobody would have guessed insulin was involved in, but is intimately involved in. So that is why when you have an issue with your insulin, whether it's not working well because of insulin resistance or your body has too much because of insulin resistance, you can have so many different issues. So the other reason I put this in was because I also want you guys to know it's not just about food, right? It's not just about our diet that can cause insulin resistance. It's also things like stress from not sleeping enough, stress from stress, or inflammatory things in our environment, right? Like microplastics, inflammatory foods, all the pesticides, all the additives in our ultra-processed foods, or smoking or alcohol. All of these things can cause insulin resistance, but the biggest reason is our food. And that is something that is not only good news, but is something that we can do something about. It's good news because we can do something about it. And what happens is that when we are following that standard American diet, the standard American way, which is to eat all these carbs and eat them every 2 to 3 hours, what happens is that your blood sugar goes up, then your insulin goes up, and then now when you are always doing that, your insulin stays up and it stays elevated all day long. And so in this situation, what happens is that your body starts to not listen to the insulin as much and it becomes resistant. Just like if, for example, if you're at home and if you guys have kids and they're very loud and they're always arguing, eventually you as a parent, you're going to just stop listening. Like you're not going to hear them. You're going to tune them out. And so then they're just going to get louder, etc. And that's kind of what happens with their body with insulin. And so every time you eat, the insulin just gets higher and higher and higher until one day your blood sugar starts to go up, right? And then you're diagnosed with the diabetes or prediabetes. But this insulin has been going higher and higher, and you're becoming more and more insulin resistant. And because insulin is responsible for all these other functions in our body, then those things start to not work well, and then it then leads to other diseases. So that is how insulin resistance is basically at the core of all of these metabolic diseases. So Jim, I think that's my presentation.
That is, you are amazing. I love the way that you make it easy, easy to understand. And how do I even follow that up? How do I follow that up? Okay, so what I want to do, and I'm going to lean on some of your credentials, right? Because I'm just a dumb lumber guy. I want to ask you a couple questions as I go through the next couple of slideshows. A systematic review and meta-analysis. That's a powerful statement?
Absolutely.
Okay, that is so what that means is somebody does a study and they publish their work, right? And then somebody else does a similar study and they publish their work, and then a third person, and a fourth person, a fifth person, and a 10th person, and a 20th, and 100, and whatever it is, they all do their work. A systematic review would go and look at all of that body of work and consolidate the results and tell us what all of the research combined said. Is that a very accurate way of putting that, Dr. Midge?
Yeah, that's a great way. And it's one of the highest levels of research.
Because it removes bias, right? It removes bias.
Yeah, definitely. And certainly you can do a meta-analysis on a bunch of
Sure.
studies that also have bias, right? So, but it does. Yeah.
So where I want to go with this is I want to show this little study right here, Dr. Midge. Do you see that?
Yeah.
This is a systematic review. This is published on PubMed Central, right? And NIH. It's an official website of the United States government. And you'll notice it is assessing the link between statins and insulin intolerance. This is a systematic review. Do statin medications cause insulin resistance? Is there a link between the two of them? The included studies had a total of 46,728,889 participants.
Wow.
This systematic review provides evidence that the use of statins may have an adverse effect on insulin sensitivity and increase insulin resistance. Is that a pretty, I don't want to put you too much on the spot, Dr. Midge, but that's a pretty powerful statement, is it not?
Yeah, it's crazy.
That's showing that statin medications, rosuvastatin, simvastatin, pravastatin, fluvastatin, atorvastatin, Lipitor, Crestor, Zocor, they're all causing, or at least there's a relationship, right?
Definitely, it's not controversial that statins increase insulin resistance. So if you have insulin resistance, it makes it worse. If you have diabetes, which is end stage insulin resistance, it basically makes your diabetes worse.
Okay. Not really a debatable point then anymore, right? It's pretty in the medical community and the scientific community, that's kind of a fact. Okay, so hey, Dr. Midge, I have a problem with my cholesterol. What am I to do? And this is where I'm going to jump in. Dr. Midge, once again, I want to talk to you about a peer-reviewed, published, double-blind, placebo-controlled, randomized clinical trial. Is there strength in that?
Yeah. Just under a meta-analysis. It's great.
Okay.
Yeah.
Love it. Okay, so I'm going to share this tab now. This is one of those. This is a double-blind, placebo-controlled, randomized clinical trial. It was rigorously peer-reviewed and then published in September of 2002. It was submitted in November of 2001, so it's about 23 years old. It was performed by the Cleveland Clinic, specifically the preventative cardiology section of the Cleveland Clinic. Dr. Midge, where do you rank the Cleveland Clinic as far as hospitals with regard to heart health?
Well, even though I am Canadian, I would rank it number one.
Okay, I love it. And what they would go on to conclude, and by the way, here are the actual numbers, LDL, total cholesterol, HDL. It improved everything along the way, but there were statistically significant improvements in LDL cholesterol, triglycerides, and they would go on to conclude such a product, if taken regularly, could reduce cardiovascular risk on a population basis and potentially decrease the need and or dose for lipid-lowering prescription drugs. Lipid-lowering prescription drugs are statins. And so what the top heart hospital was saying was that balance, that's our fiber, could potentially decrease the need and or dose for those. Is that relatively accurate, doctor?
That's absolutely correct.
Okay, wonderful. Now, let's talk about the and by the way, you can see my screen, right? Yes, you can. Okay. Let's talk about the University of Sydney, Australia. This study right here looked at the fiber-rich nutritional supplement BioSlife Slim. It was performed by Dr. Jenny Brand Miller at the University of Sydney, Australia. Now, who is Dr. Jenny Brand Miller? Let's talk about her really quick. If you go to glycemicindex.com, it takes you to the University of Sydney, Australia. That's the home of the glycemic index. More than that, they are in charge of maintaining the International Glycemic Index database and website. The person in charge of that program is none other than Dr. Jenny Brand Miller. She's been published more than 250 times. She's kind of a powerhouse on this topic right here. Now, we come back to this study, and we see her studying the same product that the Cleveland Clinic studied 10 years before. And in this study, she found that it lowered the glycemic index as well as the insulin index for every test food they put in front of it. So somebody in the comment section just a moment ago said that they were controlling their diabetes by way of diet. They were really watching their carbs. Were they going to have to be as restrictive as they always would? What this study right here is suggesting that by consuming this product right here, it will minimize that carb impact. It'll help lower the glycemic index, which ultimately leads to lowering the sugar spike. Now, they studied it a second time, and here's that study. This study showed that it lowered the blood glucose levels by 20 to 28%. Those are just massive numbers, 20 to 28%.
That's better than metformin.
There it is. I didn't know if you would say that. I was hoping you would. There you go. If you go to Google and ask Google, Google would say that metformin averages 10 to 20%, right, Dr. Mitch?
Yeah, about 20. Yeah, but you're right. Yeah.
And so this actually outperformed that. Okay, now if we scroll down a little bit further, it'll show that it reduces blood insulin, which, as Dr. Midge just so eloquently put, insulin's the problem. This lowered the insulin, the blood insulin levels by 13 to 27%. Again, just massive numbers. Now, I'm not done yet. Early on, I was talking about Dr. Ben Bickman. Dr. Ben Bickman is a professor of cell biology and physiology at Brigham Young University. Here's his profile on BYU's website. Cell biology and physiology. This guy studies and understands the relationship between insulin and cell probably better than just about anybody in the world. He has a website called insuliniq.com. If you're listening to me and Dr. Midge and Danielle on a Wednesday night, you should be a member of insuliniq.com. You probably would learn something from this website, and you'll see that little image right there. Do you have any of those? Does your sister have any of those? Does your mom have any of those? If so, they should be part of this live stream. Now, this guy right here, Dr. Ben Bickman, you can kind of see him in the background there. I'll show this picture again. That guy right there, he was on a podcast earlier this year talking about our tea, Unamate. And this is him talking about the tea.
I'll be sharing at a meeting in March in Las Vegas is that this yerba mate supplement called Unamate also increases GLP-1. We found in this experiment we did, the GLP-1 levels went up by about 70% in a fasted states, which is pretty considerable.
So let's just talk about that real quick. The tea, the top metabolic scientist in the world is saying that the tea increases your GLP-1 by up to 70% during a fasted state. He has also published research on the same product, and I should have shared that really quick. Let me share that. It is right here. I've got a lot of open pages. Right here. Yerba mate supplement exerts beneficial tissue-specific effects. This was published by Dr. Ben Bickman, right here. And this study effectively shows that it increased the efficiency at which we burn fat, which I think everybody who's listening here probably would appreciate, being able to burn fat more efficiently. Dr. Bickman proved it in that study, published again last year. Okay, so how does this work, and how do we actually use this? Well, you wake up in the morning while you're fasting, as Dr. Midge was talking about, while we're fasting, you wake up and you drink one of the teas. I drink mine hot. Dr. Midge, do you drink it hot or cold?
Cold.
You drink it cold.
Yeah.
You're on the cold side. I'm
Yeah.
team hot, you're team cold.
Yeah.
It doesn't matter. Drink it hot or cold. The trick is sip it. Don't guzzle it. Sip it. Just sip, sip, sip. When you drink it all, just drink a second one. That's what you do. You just kind of transition right into the second one. What you will find is that they increase your ability to, they take away the food noise. They help you extend the fast. They kind of make it easy to fast. They increase your GLP-1, all sorts of benefits to it, right? And you're just going to transition straight into a second one. When you're getting ready to eat your heaviest meal, if you have spaghetti at lunch, that's a heavy carb meal. If you have pizza at dinner, that's your heavy carb meal. Drink this immediately before it. When you drink this immediately before it, it lessens the impact. Does it make it foolproof? Does it make it bulletproof? No, but it certainly helps. It's been clinically studied to help. So you drink this right before you eat. And guys, that is literally it.
Yeah.
I don't talk about counting calories. I do watch my carbs because I don't think that we're supposed to be eating the carbs the way that we do. But that really is the program. They offer a 90-day money-back guarantee. They guarantee your satisfaction. If for any reason you're not happy, ask for a refund. They'll give you all your money back. Try it for 90 days. If you're interested in buying it, get with the person who invited you into this live stream. They will tell you how to buy it. They're going to give you their referral link. It gives you a lifetime discount to the product. Dr. Midge, have I missed anything?
No, I think that's awesome. I mean, the other thing I love about chlorogenic acid, which is the Unimati, right? We extracted and concentrated it, is it also has anti-glycemic, or help me, Jim.
Anti-inflammatory.
Anti-inflammatory, also acts as blood pressure. It lower your blood pressure.
Yes. I want to show you something here really quick, actually. I can't believe I almost let this go. This is very necessary. This study right here. Chlorogenic acid improves. Oh, that's not the right one. This one is. I'm sorry, right here. The effects of chlorogenic acid on blood pressure. Dr. Midge, that's another systematic review and meta-analysis of randomized clinical trials.
Love it.
And this study right here, in conclusion, the evidence from published randomized clinical trials suggests that chlorogenic acid intake causes statistically significant reductions in systolic and diastolic blood pressures.
Yeah.
So as Dr. Midge was just saying, it lowers blood pressure.
And it's an insulin sensitizer, right? Lowers your glucose levels. It's antioxidant. This chlorogenic acid is crazy in my mind. And the fact that we have so much of it in our tea makes me so happy.
Oh, hi, Patricia. Okay. So let me ask questions. Let me get to some questions here. We've got a few minutes left. I'll take this one here. Lori asks, so why not get 60 of the fiber instead of just 30? Wonderful. I use 2 a day. Honestly, I buy extra fiber. It's a pretty minimal investment. The company chose to.
Me too.
They just put the emphasis in North America. You get 2 teas per day and 1 fiber. Outside of North America, you get 2 fibers and 1 tea. That's the way it was forever. They just recently this year decided to go with 2 teas and 1 fiber. Really, that's rooted in the work of Dr. Ben Dickman. He's brilliant. They listen to the brilliant people. GLP-1 benefits of the Unimate are amazing. Not that they're saying that the fiber is less. They're just saying that the Unimate, and they could have just done 4 packets, but it would have been over $200. And they said, okay, we're gonna do 3 packets. We're gonna put the emphasis on the tea. I hope that answers that question. But you can add an extra balance to your kit. That's what I do every month. I take a balance before each meal. Okay, so let's see. Patricia asked the question. What was the question? I saw it pop up here. I'm new and waiting on my first order to come in. Lori, I'm excited for you. What should I not eat besides bread or carbs? There's 2 different ways to answer that, right? The first way is Unicity. There's nothing in Unicity's money back guarantee that talks anything about diet.
Mm-hmm.
They don't talk about diet whatsoever. They say that if you add their product to your lifestyle, you'll be better. I think if you're trying to get rid of some of these chronic diseases, carbs are your enemy. Is that fair, Dr. Mitch?
I think you're absolutely, yeah. But that's what I like about the system too. It's not like a fad diet. It's not extreme dieting, right? And if you just started with where you're at and try to intermittent fast and not snack, it's going to help you immensely. Just that.
Okay, this one's for you, Danielle. How long did it take you to lower your insulin?
That one for me?
Yeah, that one's for you. I was never on insulin. That one's for
Me neither.
yeah.
It's kind of going glitchy. So it only took me from March until August, and I was off my insulin.
That's pretty crazy.
5 months.
5 months.
Wow.
Okay, so Stephanie says, so if we buy this stuff, do we still keep taking our insulin too? Dr. Midge, that's yours.
This is such a great question. So when you're doing insulin, I would really work with your doctor, because with this product, you're going to have your insulin requirements come way down. And so one of the reasons, and Danielle, you were kind of talking about this when you're talking about your story, how your doctors, they kept telling you to eat more carbs, right? Like they were chasing your insulin with the carbs because they were worried that your insulin was going to make you hypoglycemic, which is a real worry for us physicians. And so we don't want this to happen with this product and insulin. But when you do need less insulin, that's a really good thing. But essentially, as soon as you start taking it and start intermittent fasting, your insulin needs are going to come way down. And so work with your doctor and have a plan to do that.
Yeah.
You know what? I want to build on something real quick, and then I'll start wrapping it up, okay? We didn't talk about the PDR, the physician's desk reference. This thing right here. Maybe you guys remember this. I'm sure Dr. Midge remembers it real well. The PDR. This is a book that your doctor would have on their desk. It's now available in electronic form, pdr.net. This is where people like Dr. Midge go to look up information about commonly prescribed medications. Both of these products are listed in the PDR. So if you want to talk to your doctor first, feel free. Tell them to look it up in the PDR. It's in the PDR. You know what's not in the PDR? Metamucil. You know what's not in the PDR? Lipton iced tea. These are not like regular tea or regular fiber. These are actually listed in the PDR. In fact, there are 19 different Unicity products listed in the PDR. This is a science-based company putting out a food-based product. I'm going to go ahead and start wrapping this up. Danielle, one of my favorite questions to ask, and I'm going to kind of put the crimps on you here. Try and keep it to like 30 seconds to a minute. There are a lot of skeptical people listening to us right now. People that might have watched from September until March. What do you say, Danielle, to somebody who is skeptical, thinking, hey, this is too good to be true. There's no way a stupid tea and a fiber supplement can do this. What would you say to that person, Danielle?
Oh my heavens, start now. I mean, I wished I would have had knowledge of this product when I was first diagnosed, but to find it now, I mean, I wished I would have started the very first time I was introduced. So.
I love that. Danielle, thank you for being my guest. Thank you for stepping outside of your comfort zone. I really appreciate you doing that. Okay, I'm going to go ahead and turn your camera off. I'm going to go to Dr. Midge. Dr. Midge, you are such a rock star. Same question to you. With all of your education, with your personal experience on this, if you were to give parting words to anybody who's listening right now, what would they be?
Same as Danielle's, is like start now, because like I said, we can reverse chronic disease with this, but you really don't want to wait until you can't. So 100%, there's science backed, and I wouldn't be involved if there wasn't any science backed. It wasn't science backed, sorry. So 100% start now, and you really have nothing to lose. There's a 90-day money back guarantee.
Yeah.
Like,
Dr. Midge, you're all over social media. do me a favor and give out your socials. If people wanted to follow you on social media, how do they find you on social media?
Okay, I'm on Instagram at, I think it's Dr. Midge MD, and then on TikTok at Dr. Midge Brown.
Dr. Midge Brown. Okay. And it's MIDGE as her name over here says. Dr. Midge, you can see it. Okay, so real quick, Stephanie, I'm going to get in one last question. Stephanie, what kind of meals can we have while taking this, and how do we do the fasting? Okay, so the system really expects you to do a 16 and 8 time-based eating schedule, okay? So as far as fasting goes, for me personally, I kind of have a hard cutoff of 8 p.m. At 8 p.m., I'm done eating for the day. I don't eat again until noon the following day. Really, my extent is skipping breakfast. And I kind of see like I'm drinking my tea for my breakfast. That's really what it is. And then between the hours of noon and 8, we have 2 meals. I don't count calories. Today for breakfast, I had 6 eggs and 8 pieces of bacon. I had a lot of food for lunch. I had breakfast at lunch. I had it at noon. When do you break your fast, right? Breakfast is just when you break your fast. Now, what kinds of meals can we have? That's going to depend on what your end goals are. Okay. But if you decide you want to order the system, and this is going to go to everybody. If you decide you want to order the system, get with the person who invited you to this live stream. They will give you a product referral link that goes directly to the manufacturer. You order it from the manufacturer, but you use their product referral link. Now, if they are a coach, they would be your coach. If they are a customer who has a coach, like me or Dr. Midge, we would help you with those meal plan types of things. You're not just kind of left out there to dry. This is an amazing community. This is an amazing community. This community will wrap its arms around you and make you feel as welcome as you can feel. And so I'm going to use that as a moment to just echo what Danielle and Dr. Midge said. If you're on the fence, there's nothing to lose. They give you all your money back if you're unhappy. And if you're sick, if you're tired, if you're sick and tired, if you feel like you're losing this battle, why not try something new? My grandfather used to say the definition of insanity was doing the same thing over and over again, but expecting different results. Are you doing that? And if so, try something different. There's nothing to lose. What if you are one of these people that 2 months from now, 3 months from now is saying, where's this been all my life? With that being said, I'm going to go ahead and wrap it up. Dr. Midge, thank you so much for coming onto this live stream and educating all of us. Give her a follow. Guys, if you have any questions, if you stumbled across this live stream, you were not brought into it, get with either Dr. Midge or myself, and we'll find a home for you if you want to order the product, okay? Everybody, thank you very much. Have a wonderful night. We'll see you next week. Same time, same place, 8 p.m. Eastern next week. See you guys.